In this mini-series, we are going to be talking you through the whole home extension and renovation project. So if you're looking to start something in 2025, you're going to want to stick around. This particular project came to us many years ago. It's a finished project now. We're going to be looking at some floor plans. Big cost to remove this wall, and create a whole new sort of box frame in this area. That is going to be a great way of saving clients money. You've then got all of this area for a kitchen, dining, living space. It's actually creating what's called an Oriel window. We're going to be talking through some of the problems that our clients had, how they wanted to create more space for their growing families, create amazing family entertaining spaces. This is a split level, lower ground floor and ground floor property, which again in Southeast London is quite popular. They had the tiniest kitchen that you ever see. I mean, this is the size of the kitchen. I mean, it's absolutely minuscule. You've got 3 bedrooms. So this is the lower ground floor, and if I go up to the first floor, you've got again a tiny bathroom at the back, another reception room, and the front living room at ground floor level. The garden was really a safe haven for them. It's a really nice sized space, but at the moment, all you've got with the current layout is really low value real estate, which is your bathroom here, overlooking the garden. What we wanted to do is open up the whole space. That you've got all of your living elements, your kitchen, your living, your dining space, overlooking the garden and providing access from that space into that garden space. So the first thing that we look at when reviewing our projects is actually what is the client brief. Now the client came to us saying they wanted more space. They have a growing family, so they want to understand how they can unlock as much of the potential as the property can provide for nursery space for the family to kind of grow into. What they also wanted was a family entertaining space that maximizes the amount of light they get into the kitchen, dining, living. Let's jump into this floor plan, start looking at the lower ground floor level so that we can build up from that. Now at the moment, the kitchen is down in the lower ground and the living space is on the upper ground floor, which is bonkers. Nobody wants to take their food and take it upstairs, walking up a set of stairs to their dining space. So this has to change completely. The best way of optimizing the floor space available in this property is to utilize the existing light well, which you can see in front of you, and by filling in this space here. Now what we do with this space, because we are effectively only infilling a wall here and the rest of the space is an infill, is that from a construction value perspective, the amount of floor space you're adding for the amount of construction work itself is far less. We've got a bit of structural work which we're going to have to do to get rid of these walls to open up this space, but fundamentally to make the best use of our client's budget, infilling this at ground floor level and at first floor level was the most sensible thing to do. So this property is accessed via the lower ground floor. So you come in at grade level and you come down the steps into this front entrance. So unlike a lot of properties where you come in at ground level, it does have quite an awkward entrance. The basement, albeit lower ground floor, it's relatively light. It's not making the best use of the garden and the light to the rear, because the garden steps up onto this platform. You've got a rear light well, which is sort of sunken courtyard. So all of this space at lower ground floor level is not going to make best use of the light available, not going to make best use of rear views into the garden. So these lower ground floor spaces for me would be where you'd want to put your bathrooms and your bedrooms, so that you provide better space, higher grade space at upper ground floor level for your kitchen, dining, living space. So let's look at what we can do at this lower ground floor. And the cheapest way of extending this property is going to be to infill this section, the courtyard. Now this can be done at lower ground floor level and upper ground floor level, and the economies of scale with that type of infill extension is going to be great from a build cost perspective. So once we've infilled this area, okay, what do we then do with the internal space? Well, there's lots of structure that we have to think about, which from a cost perspective obviously isn't the cheapest to remove, but that's the only way really of unlocking the real potential with this property. So you're going to want to look at removing part of this structural wall. And one thing that we will try to do, because fundamentally we want things to look amazing, but ultimately clients have a budget. They have to stick to that budget, and we will try to look at as many ways as possible to work with the existing structure and try to find a way that both creates the space that they need but doesn't cost the earth to remove. And one thing that I can see very clearly in this property, for example, is trying to keep some of these structural walls, because that is big cost to remove this wall, and create a whole new sort of box frame in this area. So if we can rearrange the internal space whereby we're keeping this wall, and only necessarily installing a steel beam that runs from here to here, rather than opening everything up all the way back to the party walls, that is going to be a great way of saving clients money. So one of the things I would say about this lower ground floor level is that this front bedroom is a really generous size. The proportions are really great. You've got the bay window to the front letting lots of light in. So actually I don't think we really need to do much with that bed space. Now if you've got 3 bedrooms downstairs, you're going to want a bathroom. And I set up on the upper ground level that having the bathroom along this rear elevation, which is where the most valuable sort of real estate area is for access to windows, views out into the garden, you're going to want to put your bathroom in a location where it doesn't necessarily occupy all of that really high grade space. So in this particular layout, one of the best locations for the bathroom is probably in the center of the space here, so that each of these bedrooms on the lower ground floor have access to that bathroom very easily, and that's a family bathroom. The rest of the space to the rear, so all of this area, now this could be one big master suite, but knowing how the clients in this particular project wanted to live, they work from home a lot, so actually creating a home office, and I'm sure most people watching this nowadays start to think about having that home office at home and having a dedicated space rather than necessarily having it in your second bedroom or in your living room. So with that in mind, without changing the structure too much and again saving a few costs, what we looked at here is creating a home study out of the kitchen space, which is tiny, and that's going to move up to the upper ground level anyway. So if we've got a small study here, bathroom here, and the main bedrooms here, it kind of makes sense that this then becomes a second bedroom. So here we've got nice big proportioned first bedroom as you come in, a family bathroom, and then effectively another big double-sized bedroom with a study stroke home office. Now if we go up to the upper ground level, you can see that you've also got a very generously sized living room to the front. Now obviously this is going to get even more light because it's at upper ground level, but I don't really want to start messing around with the proportions of this room too much. This actually became the principal bedroom for the client. They wanted a large space at that upper ground level. They wanted to have an ensuite. Now an ensuite could either go in this location, or because that interrupts the proportion of these rooms, and these rooms have really high ceilings, like 3-meter high ceilings, so to box in an ensuite in the corner doesn't look great. It is a good use of space, but it doesn't really maintain those sort of proportions, Victorian sized properties with high ceilings with this nice bay window. So the other option is to create an ensuite on this side of the wall and create an opening in where you've got maybe the shower here, the sink and the toilet in that location. So now you've got access in from this bedroom, and what remains at the rear of the property then, once we've infilled this space, so this is the courtyard coming up from down below, you've then got all of this area for a kitchen, dining, living space. Now this front room could be retained as a living room if you feel like the 3 bedrooms, the 2.5 bedrooms at lower ground floor level is enough for you and you want a separate reception. But in terms of what this client needed or wanted, they wanted 3 bedrooms, they wanted a work from home office, and then they also wanted the kitchen, dining, living space at this upper ground floor level. The benefit of having this ensuite on this side would have been is that this whole kitchen, dining, living space becomes a lot bigger. But yeah, in terms of keeping the proportions of this room and keeping the client sort of happy in that respect, having the ensuite on this side of the wall is far better. But it does mean that this kitchen, dining, living space is slightly smaller. So as you can see, what I've just done there is create a open plan kitchen, dining, living space out of this rear base on the upper ground floor level. You've got views out into the garden over here. This whole frontage could become glazing all the way across here. Some people like bifold doors, some people like big sliding doors. One thing we've done a lot on our projects recently, and this is actually how this one ended up, is actually creating what's called an Oriel window. So an Oriel window is effectively a glass box that protrudes out of the rear face of this wall, creates an amazing window seat, makes the space feel bigger because you're letting loads of light into this area, but you're also creating an extension of the window out into the garden to make that whole space feel much wider. So with this L-shaped layout, there are various sort of locations that the kitchen could go. We could enter here, or we could enter here. We could have an L-shaped kitchen like that. We could utilize this space and have a kitchen over this side. We could even have a row of kitchens here, maybe an island of some kind. Dining space could go here, and a little seating area could be here. I mean, there's various ways in which this could be laid out. It really does depend on personal preference, really. And when we go through these types of options, we will normally do 3 or 4 different types of layout so that we get a good understanding of what the client might want, and also they can see the different options and say, look, I like this part of it, I don't like this part of it. And then as we start to refine the scheme, we can then refine it into a position that they're happy with. So in future episodes, we will talk about how we took this through the planning process, where we ended up with our client with the final layout that they ended up deciding upon, how much this project cost, and the time frames it took for the building works to actually be finished. So stick around. If you enjoy this content, if you want to know more about how we rearrange these types of floor plans, and if there are any specific questions about this project that you have, drop them in the comments below. Click the like button and make sure you subscribe to see the full series as it unfolds.